What's up, Star Wars nerds, and welcome to another episode of Brett on Fett. On today's episode, we're going to be having another segment of Droids Service, and on this one, I'll be giving my top 10 favorite Droids figures from the Power of the Force 2 and Power of the Jedi lines combined. And also, we'll be quickly going over some more random pickups of mine. Let's get to it.
Congratulations, you're liberated. Scoot. I don't know. Free your brothers and sisters or something. Just give me some space.
Welcome back to the channel. This is episode 30 of Brett on Fett. And before we get into all the droids talk, I did want to quickly go over some more random pickups of mine. You know, the items have just been pouring in over the last few weeks, and the shelves at Targets and Walmarts have been pretty full compared to previous times, and so it's been really awesome. Maybe not so awesome for our wallets, but awesome for our collecting. And just in the past few days, I even got more items I just wanted to share with you really quick. Starting with the retro collection, you know, the Obi-Wan Kenobi series retro collection wave has been shipping out to people over the past month. And a couple weeks ago, I got my first one from that wave, the Ned B. And then the second one I ordered, I just got a few days ago, which was the Grand Inquisitor. And this is yet another retro collection figure we desperately need in the vintage collection. They've got the card backs. The Ned B card back was awesome, and the Grand Inquisitor is no exception. I would love to see this guy in the vintage collection. And then after that, I got the new Gaming Greats figures, the two new Stormtroopers, the Stormtrooper Commander from The Force Unleashed, and the Heavy Assault Stormtrooper from Jedi Fallen Order. Two awesome figures. I love the card backs on these guys, and of course, they're both made from that most recent definitive Stormtrooper we love. And so these are great additions to my collection. Very excited to get those. And then yesterday, I finally got my pre-order in for the wave of figures that contains Yoda, the Death Watch Mandalorian, Fennec Shand, Ahsoka Tano from The Mandalorian, and the 501st Clone Trooper. I pre-ordered this wave as soon as possible, and I feel like I'm the last person to finally get them in the mail. I've had so many much newer figures come in before these, so I'm not sure what the holdup was, but very happy to finally have them. I love these figures. Great card backs and great figures, every one of them in my opinion. So really happy to finally have these in my collection. And then I also got a few items that are not Star Wars figure related. And let's take a closer look at what I'm talking about. Alright, so like I said, I picked up a few non-figure related items recently, including this Micro Galaxy Squadron Outland TIE Fighter. I actually got this for my son. This is Moff Gideon's TIE Fighter, of course. This one says it's rare, 1 of 15,000. My son has not decided if he wants to open this yet or not. If we find a second one, we'll probably keep that in box and then open the other. But these are really cool toys. I like the artwork on the back. You can see there's a few of the other ones you can collect. They have a ton of these out now. Awesome toys. I have no intention of collecting these, but we might get a few. Mainly for my son. I did pick up the second one for myself since Boba Fett is my focus character. This, of course, is the Slave 1. I know it says Boba Fett Starship, but it will always be Slave 1 to me. And it comes with Boba Fett and Fennec Shand. And it's got a really cool paint job on there. I like the weathering on it and everything. Haven't decided if I'm going to take this out of the box. I probably will end up taking it out of the box and displaying it. I haven't decided yet, but you know, really cool packaging. I like the blueprint style art on the back that you can, I guess, cut out and collect. And there's another look at the ships. Like I said, they got a bunch of these out now. And overall, I am very impressed with this Micro Galaxy Squadron toy line. I think these are very well made, and these are excellent for collectors and kids alike. So highly recommend them. And next, I did a thing. I went out and bought the Black Series Bo-Katan helmet. This thing is gorgeous. I've had my eye on it since it came out, but I don't collect helmets, so I just couldn't justify spending that kind of money on getting a helmet. You know, when I don't collect helmets, I don't have a lot of room for them. But GameStop has a deal on this. It's on sale for $99.99 US, and I highly recommend taking advantage of that if you can, because this thing is awesome looking. I love the paint job on this helmet. I love the weathering. I love the art design. Taking a look inside, if you're familiar with Black Series helmets, you know they do a great job on the interior of these. And I'm just super impressed. It's my first Black Series helmet ever. Of course, it's got the little drop-down viewfinder that lights up on the outside and then has a light-up screen on the inside. Very cool. And it's just an amazing piece. I haven't decided where I'm going to display this thing. I don't really have much room for it anywhere, so I'm going to have to figure that out. But I just had to take advantage of that sale. I do just want to show y'all I have another helmet. This is a cheap Boba Fett helmet that came out in 2009. This was way before Black Series was even a thing, and I think I paid maybe $23 for it. But for the money, I think this is still a pretty cool Boba Fett helmet to play around with and, you know, let the kids play with. My kids like putting this thing on every now and then. It does make sounds and it lights up. I don't have any batteries in it. And the paint's pretty cool. But look, the interior, extremely plain, very simplistic. I just wanted to bring this out just to say that I do have another helmet, it's just not Black Series. And when you compare the two, it's just night and day as far as quality goes. Alright, so now it's time for another segment of what I like to call Droids Service, where we dedicate the topic entirely to droids and droids figures from Star Wars lines. And this is part 3 of Droids Service, and today I will be giving you my top 10 favorite droids figures from the Power of the Force 2 and the Power of the Jedi lines combined. Now, if you're not familiar with those lines, Power of the Force 2 was the first line of Star Wars figures that Hasbro produced following their acquisition of Kenner. It came out in 1995 and ran until 2000. And it's simply called Power of the Force on the cards, but collectors refer to it as Power of the Force 2 to distinguish it from the line of figures that Kenner put out in 1985 that was simply called Power of the Force. And then Power of the Jedi was really just a continuation of Power of the Force that Hasbro ran from 2000 to just 2002. The main differences on the card backs is instead of just a Vader on the card back, the Power of the Jedi contained Vader but with a young Obi-Wan in front of him. Now, the Power of the Force 2 line was infamous for featuring figures that were beefed up and looked like they're on steroids. It kind of turned off quite a bit of collectors, including myself. However, the line did produce some pretty good alien figures and some awesome droids figures. So that's why I wanted to take a look at my top 10 favorite droids from that line, including the Power of the Jedi line together. So let's take a look at what I came up with. Alright, before we get into the top 10 droids from Power of the Force 2 and Power of the Jedi, I did have one honorable mention because this figure was not a standard release in stores. It was a special mail away, and so I did not want to include it in the top 10, and it's the Bomar Monk, or this, some people might call it a spider droid. And like I said, it was a special mail away figure, but you actually had to go online and order it on the internet in 1997 when a lot of people didn't have the internet or weren't too savvy in it. But if you managed to figure out how to order it through the website, this is what it looked like when it came in this box with a little instruction manual on how to assemble it. And I do have this figure, so let's take a closer look at it. And here is my Bomar Monk droid. Very cool looking droid, but very strange looking droid. This, of course, was in the background of Jabba's palace in Return of the Jedi. And you see it's got this brain in the jar, which is supposedly the monk's brain they transfer to these droids. I really love the body on this thing. This part right here looks just really cool. And I just think it's a really unique droid to own, and I think it was really well made for the time. Like I said, it was Power of the Force, 1997. And kicking off the top 10, I had to squeeze R2-D2 in here somewhere. So I went with R2-D2 with holographic Princess Leia from Power of the Force. It's not the best R2-D2 ever or anything, but it's a pretty good one, and it's probably the best from this line. But what I mainly like about it is how it came with that holographic Princess Leia. I thought that was a really neat idea, and it's the first time they've paired those two together like this, and so I thought it really worked. Next up at number 9 from the Power of the Jedi line, I have R3-T7. This is from a series of figures that were considered a sneak preview for Attack of the Clones. These came out prior to the movie. And that's a pretty neat looking droid. I actually have this one, but he's put away somewhere in the attic, and I just was feeling lazy about getting him out. So here's some pictures though. He's got this nice clear dome. I really like the clear dome on some of these astromechs, so that kind of sold it for me on this guy. And as you can see, it comes with a little electrocution effects. So, you know, overall, pretty neat droid. Next at number 8, I have the probe droid from the Power of the Force line. This was considered a deluxe figure, as you can see. And I do have this one in my collection, so let's take a closer look at him. And here is my loose probe droid from the Power of the Force line. I used this guy in an old Battle of Hoth diorama I had at my old house. Pretty good looking probe droid. He's got that projectile, you know, firing rocket on it that kind of takes away from the realism. But it has highly articulated legs that you can do a lot of different poses with. And let's see here. You know, the paint job isn't as good as it could be, but just a lot of nice little features here. You can move that little gun there. And here's that little projectile you can fire. I haven't fired this thing in 10 years probably, so I probably won't even, not sure if it'll work. Let me try it here. Yeah, the spring's a little stiff there, so not really firing too well. But it also has a button on the bottom that you can press that simulates him exploding when Han and Chewie shoot him in the movie. But it looks good. It's a pretty good probe droid. It served me well when I use it for my Battle of Hoth diorama, and you know, for the time, it's just a really good looking droid, and so I've always been happy with it. Next up at number 7, I have the Dark Trooper from the Power of the Force line. This is the first ever Dark Trooper action figure. This version is based on the Dark Forces video game, and I love Dark Troopers. I've always been fascinated with them, and of course they weren't really canon until The Mandalorian, and so now they're more popular than ever. And I do own this one, so let's take a closer look at mine. And here is my Dark Trooper from Power of the Force 2. You can see here it says Expanded Universe. They put a number of Expanded Universe characters out around this time. And here he is. He looks awesome. He is a little cartoonish looking, I admit, and that's because he's based on that Dark Forces video game. So they kind of kept the look of him from that. So definitely not very realistic looking, maybe a little cheesy in some people's opinion, maybe, but I still think he looks really cool. Here's take a look at the back of the card. Now they put a series of figures out where they had these play sets that you could fold out from the actual card back. So I thought that was a pretty neat idea. So it has this extra thick card back with all that stuff folded up inside, and I just thought it was really cool little touch that they added there, especially for loose collectors to be able to have that little display piece. But overall, a really neat figure in my opinion. Next up at number 6, I have 8D8 from the Power of the Force line. This is a droid from Return of the Jedi who rose in popularity recently because he was also prominently featured in the Book of Boba Fett series on Disney+. And I own this figure in my collection as well, so let's take a closer look. And here is my 8D8 on the Power of the Force card back. You can see this one still has a Walmart sticker on it. It was $5.76. And taking a look at the figure, you can see it says 8D8 with droid branding device. It does come with that equipment for branding the droid's feet, which is a nice little feature. The figure itself has a very good likeness to the droid in the movie, in my opinion. And this came from a series that had freeze frame action slides where it has an actual slide from the movie. And this one says Jabba's droid in charge of torture. I think that's kind of funny. But on the back, the nice little features, it has a little window cut out of the cardboard. And the purpose of that is so if you hold it up to a light, you can actually see the slide. So let me put my circle light here. So see, it shines through the back of the card so you can see what scene is featured on the slide. So that's a pretty neat feature they came up with, you have to admit. And then just looking at the back, you got that clip from the movie with him on there, branding the droid's feet. There's a picture of everything together and the wave. But a very neat figure with a nice little feature there with the branding equipment. And I'm curious if they'll remake this guy for the Vintage Collection, possibly on a Book of Boba Fett card. Next up at number 5, I have R2-Q5 from Power of the Jedi. If you watched my Droids Service Part 2 on a previous episode, you may recall I featured him as one of my remote-controlled Sphero droids. And I do have this figure in my collection, so let's take a look. And here is my R2-Q5 on the Power of the Jedi card. You can see this is from Collection 2 of that line. And here's the figure looking very good. I love the paint scheme on this droid. And the mold is pretty good. I think it looks pretty close to what you might expect these days. And it comes with this neat accessory, the hologram of Death Star 2. Always thought that was a pretty cool accessory. And then on the side here, you've got this little 8-page info packet that comes inside the card. And flipping over to the back, you can see you got a little write-up there, and then you've got some vital statistics on R2-Q5, and there's a look at the wave he came in. So overall, pretty awesome droid. Again, just really love the color scheme on this guy. That's what really sold it for me. Next up at number 4, I have the Death Star droid with mouse droid from Power of the Force. And who doesn't love a good mouse droid? And it's always awesome when he comes packed in with something else. And that something else is a very cool looking Death Star droid in my opinion. Maybe not because of the sculpt. The sculpt is dated. However, the color scheme on this guy is awesome in my opinion. I love the shiny black and the silver eyes. I just think he looks really cool. So unfortunately, I don't have this one in my collection. I've been meaning to get it. I will eventually get this one because I just think it's a great 2-pack to have the Death Star droid and mouse droid together. And that's why I picked this dynamic duo as number 4 in my top 10. Moving into the top 3, at number 3 I have EV9D9 from Power of the Force. He of course was one of the droids in Jabba's palace getting C-3PO and R2-D2 registered, and more recently he was featured as a bartender in The Mandalorian. And I do have this guy in my collection, so let's take a look at him. And here is my EV9D9. You can see it is on the Power of the Force card. Great looking figure. You can see it says EV9D9 with datapad because it comes with that nice accessory there. And the figure itself looks excellent. It looks just like the droid from the movie in my opinion. I like the color scheme. And there's the nice datapad accessory it comes with. And this is another one of those freeze frames with the little movie clip. And let me get some light behind this thing so you can see what it looks like. And there you go. So I shine the light behind the card. It comes through. And you got that little scene there where he's registering R2-D2 at Jabba's palace. So that's very cool. And flipping over to the back, you got the same image from the film strip there in Jabba's palace. And you got to look at the rest of the wave there, as well as a special offer for Star Wars fans. Overall, very cool looking droid, which is why I put him at number 3. Now for my number 2 pick, as well as my number 1 pick, I have to admit I'm a little biased because the vintage Kenner version of these figures were some of my favorite to play with as a kid. And so at number 2, I have 2-1B from the Power of the Force. This of course is a medical droid. I just always thought this was a very interesting looking droid. And I do have him in my collection, so let's take a look. Alright, so here is my 2-1B on the Power of the Force card. Interestingly enough, they did not put the little feet under the bubble, so it sits too high and the card cannot stand on its own, which I thought was kind of odd, because I don't think too many of them were like that. You can see it's part of Collection 2, but taking a look at the figure, this is an excellent version of 2-1B in my opinion. It's so good that Hasbro actually repacked him much later in the Vintage Collection Special 3-figure packs. So that says a lot. They take a figure from 1997 and you reuse it in 2010 in the Vintage Collection. It really does say a lot about how good this figure is. And then taking a look, you got the little holographic image, which is really cool. I liked when they did those. You can see it says 2-1B Medic Droid with diagnostic computer, so it does have that little accessory. And flipping over to the back, you can see a nice little picture of 21B with some statistic information, and there's a look of the other wave of figures as well as a couple of vehicles. But very cool looking figure and one of my favorites, so I had to put this guy at number 2. Now I am bound to take some flack for my number 1 pick in this video, and that's because a lot of collectors find this droid to be fairly boring. And that is FX7 from Power of the Jedi. Again, I'm a little biased because FX7 was also one of my favorite droids to play with as a kid, even though, yes, I understand a lot of you think he's boring. I always thought he was cool. But this is the definitive version of FX7. That's why I have him number 1. He looks excellent. I really think they nailed it on this one. It's just, like I said, a definitive version. You could repack this in the vintage collection, in my opinion, and I don't think anyone would blink an eye. You could update him, like, for example, the base paint could be changed to a more silvery gray. This one's more of a bluish gray. I think a silver gray would be more screen accurate. But man, the coloring on the arms, it's just so good. The attention to detail was so impressive on this particular figure. They just really wouldn't have to do too much to give him a proper update. And the sad thing is, he's my number 1 pick, but I actually do not have this one in my collection. I just keep either forgetting to put in the effort to find him, or I'll find him and just narrowly miss a bid, or I'll find him but he's damaged. And I'm just gonna keep looking and just trying to remind myself, because I do need to have this one in my collection. Awesome, awesome droid. I don't care if you think he's boring. He's my number 1 pick. Alright, so that's going to do it for this episode. Let me know in the comments what you thought about my top 10 droids figures from Power of the Force 2 and Power of the Jedi. Did I leave any out? And also, what are some of your favorite droids from those lines? Thank you so much to my subscribers. Don't forget you can also follow me on Instagram and on Twitter. Take care, and we'll see you next time.